It is SEC Championship week. I will add Palmer Toms and Jake Rowe in. Guys, we heard from Kirby Paul Smart today at the Buttsmere building, and I am a little intrigued by something that I heard from Kirby, heard from the players, and I wonder if it struck you guys the same way. They're not just motivated to win the SEC Championship. They're motivated because they haven't played well there, and they've had a lot of chances at it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even blame them for feeling that way either. I mean, they have really kind of stunk it up for the past. I mean, I would say, like, I don't know, take the fourth quarter against Alabama, about 8 out of the last 9 quarters there. You know, you starting with that 2018 fourth quarter. Didn't play well against LSU. Of course, I mean, I'll say it again. You bat a pass up in the air, quarterback catches it, runs for 9 yards. It's not your day. And then obviously Alabama last year, they played really well in the first quarter, but after that they got their back porch painted red, and that's just kind of how that went. So, you know, I can understand them wanting to do it. They haven't played well in that game. They sure got this season off to a pretty good start in that building, though.
They did, and the thing that kind of stands out throughout Kirby's career is every year there's one of these games where things just get away from him. Last year, that was the case against Bama. 2020, I guess you could say that was the case against Bama and Florida. Kind of a different year, of course. 2019, I mean, LSU was unstoppable. 2018, you're at LSU. 2017, at Auburn. 2016, time is a flat circle. You're taking on Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss and Oxford. So Georgia trying to avoid that this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they've certainly had games where they haven't played their best, but I don't know that they haven't let one get away from them like they like you might expect, or like you know they have done in the past. So I think Georgia fans probably holding their breath, hoping that it's not this week, and that what everyone is saying about if they lose that they're still in is if that's the case, they certainly hope it's true.
You know what's weird? I know I've made a big deal about you know, Georgia could very well go 15-0 this year with 20% of its games played inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. If everything goes like Georgia, you know, Georgia just keeps winning, I think we're going to be up to 9 games that Georgia has played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium under Kirby Smart. 9 games, I think, is what it'll be for. Because so far we've been looking at 4 SEC championship games.
Chick-fil-A Bowl, Natty.
Chick-fil-A Bowl, Natty. Yeah, right. Chick-fil-A Bowl and Natty.
5 SEC championship games.
Yeah, coming up is the 5th one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then that'll make it 7.
You got the Oregon game.
8. Right. So, yeah. And then, you know, then if you played in the semifinal game, it would be 9. 9 games in 7 seasons, Kirby Smart. And they actually, it wasn't even around for one of those years. So really 9 games in 6 seasons.
And if you want to count the Dome in that, they played 1 game there that season as well.
Right, yeah. So you get a game and 6 seasons in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Georgia's getting a game and a half a year inside that place.
Well, think about the Mark Richt era. It lasted twice as long as Kirby's got to this point, and Rick's teams made it in 02, 03, 05, and then did it last all the way until 2011.
11 and 12.
2012. And they're not easy. They don't grow on trees. You can't really imagine or expect to win every single time you go. But it is a notable thing, I think, that Kirby's teams – the batting average is not great. So I can see why they'd use that as motivation. As Kirby said today, those are numbers that you get to put on the wall forever. And that's a pretty cool way to put it. And there's a lot of guys that have had a lot of cracks at it by now. Chris Smith definitely carrying some motivation in there. We didn't hear from Kyrus Jackson today, but he's one of those team leaders that's also spoken about putting numbers on the walls. And I know these guys are motivated to do it. And you don't have much margin when you look at how awesome and badass last year's team was. but you do have resume builders. You do have things that you can look back at on the Wikipedia page and say, hey, we won an SEC championship. That team did.
No doubt. And listen, man, I remember going down there, and part of that was there had been a little bit of a drought. Like it had been 12 years, I guess, since 2005, since Georgia did it in 2017. There was a lot of emotional energy down on that field for the conference championship. And it meant a lot in that game, right? It meant Georgia had punched a ticket to the college football playoff for the first time. It meant the first conference title. But I also think just the pageantry of the way the SEC puts it on, that venue, being in the home state, there's going to be a lot of Georgia support there. I think if one, I was talking to somebody today and they had a really good point. They talked about how that the LSU loss to Texas A&M did probably hurt LSU a little bit, because it probably means, 4,000-6,000 less LSU fans may decide to show up.
Yeah.
And, spend their money to come on over to Atlanta and do that whole, rigmarole. I mean, so if you lose a few on secondary market or whatever, then, that place kind of leans even more Georgia's way, more fans of the building. There's something to winning that title. There's something to it. And I truly believe it means a lot to Kirby Smart, because, listen, man, when Kirby Smart was a player at Georgia, I don't know, man, there's some stuff I still eat, right, that I ate when I was a kid that's not even that good anymore, but I still eat it that way.
We had a big Pop-Tart discussion.
Yeah, Pop-Tarts. Sometimes I like to eat hamburger steak. I just like to cook the hamburger, throw some mushrooms and onions with it, a little Heinz 57, it's not even good food, but it tastes good, and it reminds me of home. I think Kirby looks back at the SEC championship game and Georgia's failure to make it for so long, and all through his 5 years with the program. I think that's something. I think it means a lot to him, because that would have been one hell of a year then. That would have been a special season. It was in 2002 when it finally happened. And I think winning that conference title does mean a lot to Kirby.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Jake. It was almost like automatic for the Tide. You go back and forth with Florida a little bit, kind of toy around with Tim Tebow, but ultimately you had some pretty good memories when that SEC logo's at midfield. And then, 2016, you don't expect to win the SEC in your first year as a head coach. I guess Brian Kelly has a shot at that in the league. But your second year, you go in, have a team that's still trying to buy into what your identity is as a coach, get blown out at Auburn, and then, hey, lo and behold, you show up and you've won an SEC championship your second year as a head coach. You think maybe this thing will be a little bit more manageable for me, and it's been elusive since then.